24th of January, Rabbi Moore, Parsha, Hashavua with Rashi, Mishpatim.
How are you? Yechiel, how are you feeling?
Welcome back, Yechiel.
Good to see you. I don't hear him. Do you hear? Do you have a mic on, Yechiel?
I can't hear him, no.
Okay, let's go. You're in Mishpatim. Now I hear you. Wow. Okay, we are in the middle of Rashi and Pasuk base. Okay, just to quickly sum up the first Rashi, and your question is a good question, what you asked yesterday, Lou, but I don't want to get too involved over it because it will get quite complicated if we get involved with that. Akoponim, Rashi comes to a conclusion when it says Ki sikneh eved ivri. If you buy, eved ivri means a Hebrew slave. Ki sikneh eved ivri means you buy a Hebrew slave. Okay, and the Maisa will come out the din. It will not make a difference whether he sells himself or another Jew sells him to you. The question is actually, it's an interesting point, is whether can one Jew sell another Jew as a slave to a third Jew? Let's say Ruvain has a Jewish slave called Shimon. Can he sell Shimon to Yehuda as a slave? Is it Bechlal Shaykh? Okay, we're not going to go into that. That involves your question there. Okay, but basically what comes to the conclusion is that a Jewish slave, we're talking about over here, if you acquire a Jewish slave, the Maisa we're going to come out in Maskana is a Jewish person can be sold as a slave in one of two ways. We're going to see that in the next Rashi, either by selling himself because he's hard up and he needs cash, or by Bezdin selling it. And this is really what we're going to see in the next. But as far as a non-Jewish slave is concerned, he is like the property of his owner. So if either a Jew buys a slave, non-Jew, as a slave from another non-Jew, or he buys it from his fellow Jew, doesn't make a difference. The Maisa, the non-Jewish slave is considered like the property, the chattel of the Jew who owns it. Okay, so this limit, which the Pasuk says every 6 years, is only applicable to a Jewish slave, but a non-Jewish slave, there's no time limit. Okay. Lou, in the middle of the Rashi, Ki sikneh eved ivri. Okay, you have the Rashi, Ki sikneh, it's the second Rashi on the Pasuk.
When you will buy a Hebrew servant, Ki sikneh, when you will buy, miyad beis din, from the court, shemecharuhu bignei vasu. they sold him for his theft.
Right.
Im ein lo v'nimkar big nevaso. I'm sorry. Kamo shene'amar. Im ein lo shenimkar big nevaso. As it says, if he does not have
Money, meaning the Ganav doesn't have money to pay back, the Nimkar Bignevose, then he is sold for his theft.
so money, you're filling money in, it doesn't say money.
Okay, so let's look at the pasuk. It's not so far away. Pasuk is the end of chapter Chav Aleph. Here it is.
Okay, so yeah, that would be very nice.
Pasuk Chav Beis. Yeah. Chapter 22, Pasuk 2.
Okay, so my English says if he has nothing.
Right? In Ein Loi, if he doesn't have anything to pay back, because the pasuk, the beginning of the pasuk says, somebody breaks in, somebody who's a ganav, he breaks into somebody else's house and steals. Okay, so the Gemara will, I don't know if we're going to get to there, but we're going to. There, the Torah says it depends what relationship the ganav has to the person from whom he's stealing, depends whether he's got a din of a rodef or not. So rodef means somebody who is likely to kill. And therefore, if we would kill him at that point, there would be no chiyuv misa for the person to kill him, means the balabais stands up against the ganav and shoots him, let's say. He sees a guy breaking in and he shoots him. So is the balabais liable for killing the ganav? Because he's got to protect himself. And the din is somebody who comes in, breaks in the middle of the night in order to steal. The Gemara says we assume that this guy is not going to just there for stealing. If the balabais is going to oppose him and stand up and defend himself and stop the guy from trying to steal, then he's going to use all means at his disposal to be able to achieve his theft. And therefore, if the balabais tries to stop him from stealing, he'll be willing to pull out a gun and shoot the balabais in order to be able to get hold of the items which he wants to steal. So therefore, the balabais, in order to protect himself, is allowed to shoot the ganav. That's what they're basically. With one exception, basically, it's really one exception, is if the ganav is for sure not going to kill the balabais, even if the balabais is going to put up a fight. And that, the Gemara says, it's only if a father breaks into his son's house. It says, that's what Rashi explains over there. Okay? But anyway, the pasuk is, Shalem Yishalem. The ganav has to, for sure, if he's caught, I think that he's got to pay. In anywhere, under all circumstances, he must pay. Okay? Im ein loy, and if he doesn't have what to pay, then he gets sold for his theft. By the way, the Gemara says only for robbery like that, for stealing. But if it's open theft, right, where it means that somebody's a smash and grab, then there's no din of his nimka b'gnevos. Upon him, the Gemara says it's dafka with Geneva. The Gemara makes a distinction between Geneva and Gezela. Geneva means stealing stealthily, that he shouldn't be seen and discovered. And Gezela means he steals openly. But he does it like he just, obviously maybe he's relying on his strength or whatever, but he just goes ahead and, if you want to give an example, a guy who mugs somebody else, right, comes over to him in the street, gives him a punch in the stomach, steals what he has, pulls out takes his wallet and runs off. That's called a gazlan, not a ganav. Okay, so there, this din doesn't apply. Okay, we're not going to go into the details of that. Akoponim, but there the pasuk says, "V'nim kar b'nevosei," the one who's the thief, the robber. If he doesn't have what to pay, v'nim kar b'nevosei, then he gets sold by Bezdin, because first and foremost, this ganav is not just putting him away in jail, as is commonly done nowadays, right? The main thrust of the punishment to the ganav is he's got to pay back. He's got to give recompense to the victim. He's stolen something from somebody. He's got to make good what he's done, the wrong that he's done. Okay, so we don't take all means at our disposal, but Lamaisa, the Torah prescribes certain means that if he doesn't have money, then he has to sell himself as a slave, and with the money he receives from selling himself as a slave, he gives back that to the person who the victim of his theft, and he pays him back the money. It's interesting that the Gemara says only in very specific, limited cases does he get sold, because it depends on the value of what he stole. Okay, I'm not going to go into that now, but anyway. So going back to over here. So going back to our Rashi. Okay?
Oh, Eino Ella b'mocher atzmo mipnei dachko. Or perhaps this is not correct. And it's talking about his selling himself because of his poverty.
Then the din is 6 years.
Aval, but mecharuhu beis din lo yetzei b'sheish. But if the court sold him, he should go free at the end of 6 years.
Lo yetzei b'sheish. He won't go free. Means he may have to stay longer.
Right.
Okay, so therefore the answer to that is no.
Keshehu Omer, when it says, V'chi yamuch achicha imach v'nim kar lach, when your brother will be poverty-stricken with you and be sold to you, Hare mocher atzmo mipnei dachko amur.
It's already mentioned over there. And by the way, the psukim over there, this is a pasuk in Parsha's Bahar. And the pasuk does not give any limitation of how long this person serves. It's mashma, he can sell himself for as long as he wants. Okay? But the Kopan in that pasuk introduced, the introduction of that parsha is, if your brother is poor with you, and he is sold to you. So that pasuk says, That's already mentioned, somebody who's selling himself out of poverty. Okay? Uma ani mekayem ki sikneh. Yeah? Okay, let's finish the Rashi.
Okay. You can see that one who sells himself because of his abject poverty has been discussed.
Right.
If so, to what do I apply the phrase, when you will buy? Benimkar beves din. I apply it to one who is sold by the court.
Right.
Lechafshi, to freedom. Lecherus. So lechafshi is the same as lecherus, means to freedom.
Yeah. Here, actually, I'll tell you a very beautiful thought, which I once heard a number of years ago. What is the difference between chofshi and cherus? Why does Rashi feel it necessary to tell you over here lecherus? Right? Chofshi means to freedom. Well, why does Rashi feel the necessity to add this word lecherus? What is Rashi adding? So it's interesting that later on in Parshas Kisisa, the pasuk says before, when Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountain, holding the two shtei luchos habris, the two tablets of stone, the covenant which HaKadosh Baruch Hu had given him. Here, I'm sorry, not before he came down. After he broke the luchos, it says over here. Yeah, it says, it's interesting why this just over here the Torah mentions. It says, chapter Lamed Beis Pasuk Tezvo. Chapter 32, Pasuk 15. But it says, Vayifen Vayered Moshe min Ahar. And Moshe Rabbeinu had already, Kosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu that the Jewish people had served the golden calf. They were serving idols. Vayifen Vayered Moshe min Ahar. Moshe turned and came down from the mountain. The two tablets of testimony were in his hand. What was the Torah describes what they were? Luchos, these tablets, ksuvim mishnei Evreim, written from both sides. Mizeh o mizeh ksuvim. They were written on. You could see it from both sides. The question is, the Gemara actually says, the Yerushalmi says, that was written the Maisa. The Gemara Darshans of Psukim, it was written 8 times. It says it was written 8 times on each tablet. But anyway, I mean.
So you're saying only the Seres Adibros were written on the tablets, nothing else?
Correct. Anyway, this is the main passage. Next passage, Tez Zayin says 6u. Haluchos Ma'aseh Elokim Heimo. The first luchos we're talking about, the first tablets were the creation of Hashem, of God. Michtov, and the writing on it, Michtov Elokim was the writing of God. Chorus ala luchos, which means engraved upon the tablets of stone. Whereas the writing of Hashem was engraved. So there's a famous Gemara which everybody knows. I think. It's a Gemara, it's actually a Mishnah in Avos. Al tikra charus elo cherus. Right? Don't read it as chorus, means engraved, but cherus, freedom. The only true free person is somebody who learns Torah. Who is not just who learns Torah, but oisek b'Torah. Somebody who is occupied with Torah is the only person who's really a free person. So it says this in Pshat as follows. It's a beautiful Pshat. Lamaisa, you can have two types of writing. You have regular writing. You have, like most people nowadays, you have a paper, and there's pen right on top of it with a pen. Now, does the pen actually be the ink of the pen actually become an actual part of the paper? No, especially when you're writing with ink, special on a Sefer Torah, let's say. When you write with ink on a Sefer Torah, the ink always stands up somewhat. It doesn't get mamish absorbs fully into the cloth, into the parchment. Okay, that's one kind of that's a common kind of writing. And then you have engraving. When you write with engraving, the writing itself becomes part of the material of what it's written on. You can't say that there's a writing on top of the material. It's the writing itself is engraved into the material. So when you engrave on stone, the writing is part and parcel of the stone. There's no two entities. There's the material and the writing on top of it. The writing itself becomes part of the material. He says similarly, when you can have, let's say, society. People in society know that they have to keep laws. Now, in a particular society where you have a set of laws, you can have two types of people who keep the laws. There's one type of person who doesn't understand the laws at all. But one thing he does understand, that if he goes through a red light, let's say, he's going to get a $500 fine. Okay? He doesn't understand why he has to stop at the red light, but the law tells him that if he goes through the red light, he's going to get a $500 fine. So that he understands, that kind of language he understands. So, right? For him, does that mean that the law of stopping at a red light, he understands it, that's really part of him? It's not really part of him. He would much happy be able to go through a red light for free, without having to get a good thing, because he doesn't understand necessarily why he has to stop at a red light. But he'd be happy on the other hand, he doesn't want to lose $500 each time. So therefore, he keeps to it and he doesn't go through a red light. On the other hand, you've got a more intelligent person who understands that the reason why we have a red light is that traffic should run smoothly and safely. That we obviously, not everybody can go in just in one direction and not in the other. And if some people want to, we have to give way to let people wanting to go in a different direction, let them also go. So we'll have to have divide the time. So how do we do that? So time, let's say I want to go north to south. So during that time, so if I want to go north to south, I'll have a green light. And this way, the people on the other side will have a red light and they won't disturb me and it'll be safe for me to go north to south. But when there's other times when they want to go from east to west, so I'm going to have to stop at my red light. I've got to give to them, let them have their time to go from east to west, and therefore I put a red light. So anybody who has a bit of seichel understands it's in order to have a safe and intelligent way of running society, you have to have sometimes a red light, sometimes a green light. So when he stops at his red light, he's got no problem. Even if there weren't a $500 fine, he wouldn't stop. Why? Because he understands, listen, for safety purposes, and in order that everybody should have their chance of traveling, got to stop sometimes. If I've got a red light, I've got to stop there because I've got to let the other guys go in the opposite direction. Similarly, it is with Torah as well. Kosh Baruch Hu gave us the Torah, which is a very limiting set of laws. Yeah, you got 613 laws, 365 prohibitions, 248 positive commandments. It's not an easy thing. But even among Jews, you've got also two types of people. There's people who are totally unlearned, but they'll still keep to it because they know they've got Yirah Shamayim, they're afraid of Oynesh Chas v'Shalom. They know that if they Chas v'Shalom, let's say, the Machal Shabbos, and don't keep Shabbos, they're going to get a punishment. Do they understand why you have to keep Shabbos? No. But they know it's Chav Oynesh. Right? There's a reward for somebody who keeps Shabbos, and there's Chas v'Shalom getting a punishment for somebody who desecrates Shabbos. So for that kind of person, is the keeping Shabbos, or let's say other mitzvahs as well, is that part of him? No, it's not much part of him, but it's really a part and parcel of him, the mitzvahs, and he fully understands. He doesn't necessarily fully understand. Okay? So for such a person, keeping the mitzvahs is in a way external to him. He is him. He's the way of life which he would really, on his own intelligence, he would like to run it very differently. But he realizes that there's reward and punishment. And if Chas v'sholom, he doesn't keep to what the Torah tells us, then he's going to get punished. That's one type of person. On the other hand, there's a person who's learned Torah and he understands what the reason behind the mitzvahs are. So even without being threatened with punishment if he transgresses, or even without the promise of reward, if he knows this is the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, and this is the way the world should be run, because he's learned Torah and he understands. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created the world in 6 days, and the 7th day he desisted from work, etc., etc. I'm going back all around the whole concept of Shabbos. He understands that concept of Shabbos. So therefore, for him, not to do malacha on Shabbos, he's got no, but even if he wasn't threatened with a punishment, he would still not do the mitzvahs, and not do the malachas, or the negative things which one's forbidden to do on Shabbos. He wouldn't do them anyway, because he understands this is the way Shabbos is supposed to be, and this is the way the Kodesh Baruch Hu wants the world to run, is that no work should be done on Shabbos. So for him, there's no contradiction between the mitzvahs, which are written on the Torah, and him himself. So for him, the mitzvahs are engraved upon him. There's not two separate things. He and the mitzvahs separately. The mitzvahs are all part of him. So for him, it's chorus. It's engraved upon him. So therefore, that's the idea. So that's the pshat in Chazal. Michtav Elokimu chorus ala luchos. Okay, that the writing of Hashem was engraved on the luchos. Al tikra chorus elo chelus. Who is somebody who's truly free? Freedom doesn't mean I can do what I like. It means I have enough intelligence to decide that to pick and choose what kind of laws I'm going to accept upon myself in order to run my life properly, that my life will run for a purpose. So somebody who understands all the reasons behind the Torah mitzvahs, and he accepts upon it because he realizes this is the intelligent thing to do. So he is cherus, who has the mitzvahs are engraved upon him. So somebody who is ben chayrin, somebody who has that cherus, freedom, is somebody who accepts the mitzvahs because they're engraved upon him. There's no contradiction between him and the mitzvahs. That is his desire, free will desire to keep the mitzvahs. That is somebody who has, for him, the Torah is choros. He is becherus. He has freedom. Meaning he's made a free will choice to accept the mitzvahs willingly. That is cherus. Okay, that's freedom. That's true freedom. So now that's going back to, so that's what it is. So Einocho ben chayrin, and what is the way a person achieves that level is if he's Osek Torah. If he has learned the Torah, and the Torah explains to us the reason behind all the mitzvahs and the concepts behind all the mitzvahs. Somebody who actually is Osek Torah, then he won't have a problem accepting upon himself the Torah mitzvahs because he understands fully. He's delved into Torah and he learns all the concepts which are appropriate to understanding the Torah. So therefore, him, when it comes to accepting to do the mitzvahs, he accepts it willingly. He has no problem feeling any contradiction between his own free will and what the Torah requires of him. It all goes hand in hand. So that's what I think. So that's somebody who's a ben chayrin, somebody who's becherus. Cherus means not to do as you wish. Cherus means to willingly accept the Torah. So now I'm going back to the Rashi over here by us. Rashi says this word, by adding words lecherus, Rashi is saying an important thing. Don't think till now this Jewish slave, he's been under the jurisdiction of another Jewish master. Of a Jewish master. He's been controlled by him. He can't do what he likes. So a person might think, oh, you know what? So it says lachovshi. You can go free. Free means I can do whatever I like. Says Rashi, don't have a havamim to think that means he's hefker. He can do exactly what he likes. He's parted from the mitzvahs, he can do things. No. Lecherus. When he goes free of his master, till now, he's been under the jurisdiction of his master, where he wasn't free to do exactly as his free will may dictate to him. But once he's free, then he can go back to being a proper Jew, shall we say, who is a ben chayrim, who can willingly accept all the mitzvahs of his own accord, lecherus, and that's what the Torah requires. Or once, when a person, after he's been a slave by a Jewish master, doesn't mean afterwards, okay, he's become hefty, do what he likes. No, he's got to back to being a ben chayrim, meaning a Jew who's keeping the mitzvahs properly and willingly accepting the mitzvahs. Okay, let's continue.
Okay, let's see. Im
Pasuk Gimel, yeah.
Gimel. Im bigapo yavo bigapo yetze. Im bal isha hu biyatza ishto imo. Okay, so if he comes by himself, he leaves by himself.
Okay.
If he is a Baal Isha, a husband, okay.
That means he has a wife.
He has a wife.
He has a wife.
Okay, so his wife goes out with him. Okay. So however,
Okay.
it's however he comes, he goes, it sounds like. Okay.
Right.
Im bigapo yavo. If he shall come by himself, shelo haya nisui isha, that he is not married to a woman. Im bilahodo.
Ketargumoi.
Okay.
I have the word. Did you have the word ketargumoi?
Yeah, I do have that. I missed it. Ketargumo im bilahodo. So the Targum says that's by himself.
Yochadoy means alone.
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 Okay. Ulashon bigapo biknafo. So let's see. So the word bigapo means kanaf is a wing, isn't it?
Correct. Or a corner of a garment.
Oh, the corner of a garment. Okay. So it literally.
Arba canvas, right? You have arba canvas.
Oh yeah.
Right, and there's a corner of a garment. Okay.
Okay. Shelo va ele kimot shehu yichidi betoch levusho bekanaf bigdo. So let's see. He should not come.
He means he did not come. Shaloi bar, he did not enter into being a slave. Ela kamois shehu yechidi, as he is alone.
Oh, okay.
He's alone. Besoich levushay, only wearing his clothing, and that's Rashi adds in. That's where the konof biknaf bigdo, just with the corner on a corner of his garment.
Oh, okay.
You remind me when I was a kid, right? It was the first time I read the book, whatever it says that normally, especially in England in those days, that he always would go, policeman had to go where he was wearing a uniform, pants and a proper jacket. It says on very hot days, he was allowed to go out in his shirt sleeves. So I was wondering, I asked my mother, he says, what do you mean? What happened to the rest of the shirt? Right? if only the sleeves. Right? Anyway, but the same thing is, that's the idea over here, but knaf big day. Same idea, the corner of his garment. It doesn't mean it's just the corner of the garment, it's just that the garment. Why he uses this term, I don't know. But basically means he came with a shirt on his back, he leaves with a shirt on his back. That's basically what we would say in English.
Right. However he comes, he goes. Okay. Bikapo Yetze. He goes out by himself. Magid she'im lo haya nasui mitchila. So this tells that if he was not married from the beginning, ein rabo moser lo shivcha knanit. Ein rabo.
His master, Rabbi means his master,
Rabo, his master can't transfer him
or give over to
Canaanite slave woman.
right? Lo yilid mimeno avodim.
Okay. From whom he gives birth to other slaves.
Right, he can father, he can sire
Mother, sire,
other servants. As we're going to see, this is basically what we're going to see in the next pasuk. Okay? But okay, but Rashi's pointing out in if he comes alone as a bacha, right, a single person without a wife, then he leaves singly, meaning, and therefore he doesn't, his master cannot give him a Canaanite slave woman to mate with him. Okay.
Okay, next Rashi. Imbal Ishahu. So if he is a husband of a woman, okay.
Now she adds in
Yisraeli, an Israelite woman. Oh. Okay. And let's see. V'yatza ishto imo, and his wife will go with him. V'kimi hiknisa shetetze.
Right, so now she's got a major question over here. 1 second. What do you say? That if he has a wife previously, before he became a slave, then she leaves with him. 1 second. He sold himself as a slave, not the woman. So why is she leaves with him? Where's she been till now? Who brought her in? That's what Rashi said.
Who brought her in?
Who brought her in, right, that she should now leave with him? Ella.
Ella magiha katuv shehakoneh eved ivri. Okay. Chayav b'mizonot ishto uvanav.
Right.
So, but
that somebody who buys an Eved Ivri, he's required to provide food for his wife and his children.
Oh.
Okay? And my guy comes along and sells himself, yeah, I want to sell myself as a slave. Says, oh, by the way, I've got my wife and 15 kids with. Okay. So Ramais are going to see, the Gemara discusses the thing. For a Jewish master to require a Jewish slave, to have a Jewish slave was a pretty large liability. It was more of a liability than something profitable that he has a servant now. Anyway, okay, we'll leave it here for now. As Hashem, we pick up tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Culture.